Bridgerton Season 4 drops January 29th, and the theories are insane. Benedict's Cinderella story isn't just romantic, it's a full-on class war. Francesca's forbidden love triangle is happening while she's married. A masquerade ball that changes everything, Lady Whistledown going public and building an empire, the Queen out for blood, and servants finally getting their stories told. This season is about to be the most dramatic, most controversial, and most emotional one yet. Let's break down every theory that could actually happen. Theory 1. The split release hides a massive time jump. Season 4 drops in 2 parts, Part 1 on January 29, Part 2 on February 26. Here's what no one's talking about. That gap isn't just for marketing. The books show Benedict meeting Sophie at a masquerade ball, then not seeing her again for 2 years. Part 1 could cover the ball and his obsessive search for the lady in silver. We'll watch him become consumed with finding this woman, turning down every other prospect, driving his family crazy with his fixation. Then Part 2 jumps forward when they reunite, and he doesn't even recognize her because she's now working as a servant in completely different circumstances. This split structure would be genius and devastating. It means we get the romance twice, first as a fantasy, then as a reality. And that reality is going to be so much messier and more complicated than the fantasy ever was. Theory 2. Sophie's identity is going to destroy Benedict. Sophie Bake works as a maid for Lady Armaninta Gunn, but at the masquerade ball, she's disguised as the lady in silver. Benedict falls hard for this mysterious woman, can't find her, and becomes obsessed. The way the showrunner described filming their dance scene, like watching theater, running it through completely, tells us this moment is going to be epic. When he finally meets Sophie again as a servant, he's drawn to her intelligence, her spirit, her strength. But he doesn't realize she's the same person because of the mask, the costume, the class difference, the context. Everything about her presentation is different. The moment he figures it out, that realization is going to shatter him, because he's been pining for a fantasy while the real woman has been right in front of him, and he couldn't see her because of his own privilege and society's class blindness. That's the scene that's going to break the internet. Theory 3. Penelope is building a Whistledown empire. Now that everyone knows Penelope is Lady Whistledown, she can't just spy and gossip from the shadows anymore. The controversial theory? She's turning Whistledown into the first media empire, hiring networks of women, spinsters, servants, working-class women who are invisible to society to gather information for her. These women can go places Penelope can't, hear things she'd never hear, access circles she's been shut out of. She's not hiding anymore. She's becoming a Georgian-era publishing mogul with a network of informants across London. And the Queen is pissed about it because Penelope is creating real power outside the traditional aristocratic system. This isn't just gossip anymore. It's journalism. It's business. It's women building their own economy in a world designed to keep them powerless. Theory 4. The Queen is actively trying to destroy Penelope. Queen Charlotte has been humiliated by Whistledown for 3 seasons, and now she knows exactly who to blame. Here's the theory. The Queen makes Season 4 hell for Penelope. She threatens to ban Colin and Penelope from court, which would destroy their social standing. She spreads rumors questioning Penelope's morality and character. She might even try to shut down Whistledown completely by pressuring printers and distributors. The Queen has the power to make Penelope a social pariah, and she's not afraid to use it. Penelope has to choose between keeping her power and protecting her family, between her voice and her safety. And that choice is going to be brutal, because the Queen isn't just angry. She's been publicly embarrassed by a girl from a minor family, and that's unforgivable in her world. This is about power, pride, and who gets to control the narrative. Theory 5. Francesca is already falling for Michaela while married. Season 3 ended with Francesca literally forgetting her own name when she met Michaela Sterling. That reaction? Not an accident. In the books, Francesca's husband dies, and then she falls for his cousin Michael, now Michaela. But the show is setting up for the attraction earlier. Season 4 will show all 3 of them in Scotland together, with Francesca trapped between duty to her kind husband and this overwhelming pull toward Michaela. John is sweet, stable, everything she thought she wanted. but Michaela makes her feel something she's never felt before. Something electric, terrifying, impossible to ignore. This is going to be the most emotionally complicated storyline Bridgerton has ever done, because Francesca isn't going to be a widow falling for someone new. She's going to be a married woman realizing she might have married the wrong person, or at least that her heart wants something she can't have. The guilt, the confusion, the desire, it's all going to be playing out while she's living with both of them. Theory 6. Benedict won't realize Sophie is the lady in silver for episodes. The most frustrating theory. Benedict meets Sophie as a maid and is attracted to her, but doesn't connect her to the masked woman from the ball for multiple episodes. The show is playing with class blindness. He literally can't see past her servant status to recognize the woman he's obsessed with. It's going to make viewers scream at their screens, but it's also a sharp commentary on how privilege makes people invisible. Theory 7. Anthony and Kate had twins, and there's complications. The show confirmed Anthony and Kate return as new parents with their babies. Babies! Plural. The theory? They had twins, which is already chaotic, but here's the darker angle. What if Kate had complications during childbirth? What if one of the babies is struggling? This would add weight to Benedict's storyline about choosing love over duty, showing him the stakes of commitment through his brother's experience. Theory 8. The jail scene is happening, and it's going to wreck us. Book readers have been waiting for this. Sophie gets arrested under mysterious circumstances, possibly framed, possibly caught doing something to protect herself from Araminta, possibly just victimized by a system that criminalizes poverty. And Benedict has to make a choice: let society destroy the woman he loves, or publicly claim her and face the consequences. The showrunner said Season 4 is the most faithful book adaptation yet, which means this scene is coming. And given what we know about the show's commitment to drama, they're going to make it even more intense than the book did. Picture Benedict arriving at the jail, seeing Sophie in chains, realizing the woman he's been pining for and the servant he's fallen for are the same person, all while knowing that claiming her will scandalize his family and destroy his reputation. That's the moment where he has to decide what matters more, society's approval or love. And that choice is going to define the entire season. Theory 9. Colin is going to struggle with Penelope's power. Colin and Penelope are newlyweds, and she's now the most famous woman in London as Lady Whistledown. Theory: Colin is going to have a masculinity crisis. His wife is more powerful, more famous, and more influential than he is. The season will explore what happens when a man's ego collides with his partner's success, and it's going to be uncomfortably modern and necessary. Theory 10. Sophie is the illegitimate daughter of an earl. This is canon from the books, but it's going to hit different on screen. Sophie is Lady Araminta's late husband's bastard daughter, which makes Araminta her stepmother and Rosamund and Posey her half-sisters. They treat her like dirt because she's illegitimate, forcing her into servitude in her own father's house. Kate Leung is playing Araminta, and if you know her as Cho Chang from Harry Potter, imagine that energy but as a cruel Regency stepmother. This woman is going to make Sophie's life a nightmare. Theory 11. Benedict paints Sophie and it causes a scandal. Benedict is an artist. Sophie is going to be his muse. The controversial theory: he paints her, possibly in intimate or compromising positions, and those paintings get discovered by society. We know Benedict has always used art to process his feelings, and we know he's been exploring his sexuality and pushing boundaries. Now imagine him painting Sophie. And not just her face, but her as a full person. Her body, her vulnerability, her strength. Those paintings would be incredibly personal and revealing. If someone like Araminta or a rival family finds them, suddenly everyone knows Benedict Bridgerton has been painting a servant in ways that suggest a very inappropriate relationship. The scandal would be enormous. This could force them into marriage to avoid total social ruin, or it could make their romance even more impossible because now everyone's watching. Either way, it's peak Bridgerton drama. Art, passion, and societal consequences all colliding in the messiest way possible. Theory 12. There's a third queer Bridgerton coming. Benedict is pansexual. Francesca is queer. What if there's a third? The theory that's gaining traction: Eloise is asexual or aromantic. It would explain everything. Her resistance to marriage, her disinterest in romance, her focus on intellectual pursuits and changing the world. Instead of forcing her into a traditional love story, the show could give representation to Ace Arrow people by letting Eloise define her own path. Theory 13. Violet Bridgerton is getting her own romance. Set photos show Violet getting very cozy with Lord Marcus Anderson. Theory. Violet is finally ready to move on from Edmund's death and allow herself to love again. This would parallel Benedict's journey of opening his heart, and it would show that it's never too late for romance. But here's the controversy. Will the Bridgerton kids accept their mother with another man? That tension could be explosive. Theory 14. Cressida Cowper returns for revenge. Cressida left in disgrace at the end of Season 3. But what if she comes back? Theory. She's bitter, broke, and looking for revenge against Penelope and the Bridgertons. She could try to sabotage Whistledown, spread vicious rumors, or, here's the twist, befriend Sophie without knowing she's Benedict's love interest. Imagine Cressida treating Sophie terribly, then realizing she just made an enemy of the entire Bridgerton family. Theory 15. Eloise isn't going to end up with Philip Crane. In the books, Eloise marries Sir Philip Crane, Marina's widower, but the show is sending Eloise to Scotland for most of Season 4, away from Philip entirely. Theory. They're changing her story. Maybe she falls for someone in Scotland, a Scottish intellectual, an artist, someone who challenges her differently. Or maybe they're delaying her romance until Season 5 or 6. Either way, the Philip storyline might not happen how we expect. Theory 16. Marina's death is coming and it's going to be devastating. If Eloise eventually ends up with Philip, Marina has to die. In the books, she dies of lung fever. The theory. Season 4 will show Marina's death, and it's going to be heartbreaking. Marina was treated terribly by the Ton. Her mental health was ignored, and her death will force characters to reckon with how they failed her. This isn't just set up for Eloise's story, it's a reckoning. Theory 17. Francesca gets pregnant with John's baby before he dies. In the books, Francesca struggles to conceive with Michaela after John's death. But what if the show flips it? Theory. Francesca gets pregnant with John's baby in Season 4 before he dies. When John eventually dies, she's left pregnant, grieving, and falling for Michaela. This would add incredible emotional complexity. She'd have John's child, keeping his memory alive while building a new life with Michaela. Theory 18. The show changed how Benedict finds out about Sophie's arrest. In the books, Benedict learns Sophie was arrested through Lady Whistledown's column. But now everyone knows Penelope is Whistledown, so that doesn't work. Theory. Either Penelope tells him directly, less dramatic, or Benedict is there when Sophie gets arrested. Imagine him watching her get dragged away, powerless to stop it because of class and propriety. That change would make the scene even more intense. Theory 19. Sophie disguises herself as a man to escape. Benedict is pansexual, and there's growing theory that Sophie will dress as a man at some point, either to escape Araminta, to move freely through London, or to hide her identity. This would let the show explore gender, class mobility, and Benedict's attraction to spirit over gender. It would also be a clever nod to Shakespeare and historical women who disguised themselves for freedom. Theory 20. Benedict and Sophie get married in Part 1. What if they completely flip the structure? Theory. Benedict and Sophie fall in love and get married by the end of Part 1. Then Part 2 deals with the aftermath. Society's reaction, family drama, the Bridgertons defending Sophie, them learning to navigate marriage across class lines. This would be radically different from previous seasons and incredibly bold. Theory 21. Someone takes control of Lady Whistledown away from Penelope. The darkest theory. The Queen, a rival, or someone else finds a way to publish under the Whistledown name without Penelope's permission. They spread lies, manipulate society, and turn Whistledown into something Penelope doesn't recognize. She spends part of Season 4 fighting to reclaim her voice, her power, and her identity as a writer. Theory 22. The masquerade ball goes horribly wrong. Everyone's expecting a romantic, beautiful ball. But theory, something goes wrong. Maybe Araminta tries to publicly expose and humiliate Sophie. Maybe there's a duel. Maybe someone gets seriously hurt. The masquerade could be the most dramatic, chaotic event in Bridgerton history, setting a dark tone for the rest of the season. Theory 23. The Bridgerton family splits over Sophie. Here's a theory no one's talking about. The Bridgerton family might not all support Benedict's choice. We've seen them be progressive before, but a servant? That's different. Anthony might worry about the family's reputation now that he's the Viscount with a child. Colin might be supportive because of his own experience with Penelope. Eloise will definitely champion Sophie because she hates the class system. But what about Violet? What about the younger siblings? The family could actually fracture over this, with some members refusing to accept Sophie and others standing by Benedict. That internal conflict would add so much depth and show that even loving families can be divided by societal pressure. Theory 24. Sophie is connected to another major family in the Ton. What if Sophie's biological father wasn't just any earl? Theory: he was connected to the Bridgertons or the Featheringtons or another major family. This would make her worthiness even more complicated and political. Imagine if Sophie had legitimate claim to a title or inheritance but can't access it because she's illegitimate. The class warfare would become personal for multiple families. It would also explain why Araminta is so cruel to her. She's not just dealing with a bastard child, she's dealing with a threat to her daughter's inheritance. Theory 25. Sophie has skills that shock Benedict's world. This theory suggests Sophie isn't just surviving. She's thriving in ways Benedict doesn't understand. She can manage an entire household, she understands finances, she knows how to navigate both upstairs and downstairs. She might even be more educated than people expect because her father ensured she had tutors before he died. When Benedict finally sees her in her element, he realizes she's not just someone who needs saving. She's incredibly capable, possibly more practical and skilled than he is. This flips the power dynamic and makes their relationship more equal, but it also threatens his understanding of how the world works. Final thoughts. Bridgerton Season 4 is shaping up to be the most controversial season yet. Between Benedict defying society for a servant, Francesca's complicated feelings while married, Penelope navigating public power, and all the class warfare about to explode, this season isn't playing it safe. This is the season where Bridgerton stops being just a romantic fantasy and starts asking real questions about class, power, and who gets to define worthiness. Sophie's story forces the show to reckon with the servant class in ways it never has before. Francesca's queer awakening while married challenges everything about duty and desire. Penelope's public power as Whistledown threatens the entire social order. And Benedict's journey from privileged artist to someone willing to burn it all down for love is the transformation we've been waiting for. Part 1 drops January 29th, Part 2 drops February 26th. Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Which one do you think is actually going to happen?